Tony sighed, staring at the defeat screen. "Another one bites the dust," he muttered, running a hand through his messy hair. "We need to change our strategy," a voice chimed in, laced with a hint of amusement. It was Junghak, Tony's go-to Valorant partner. "Tell me about it," Tony grumbled. Every match was the same story. "We can't both keep picking duelists." "Maybe it's time," Junghak suggested playfully, "for one of us to embrace a more supportive role." Tony laughed. They both knew Junghak lived for those flashy jet plays. Maybe it was time for Tony to switch things up. The next few weeks saw a shift in their gameplay. Tony embraced Sage, her healing abilities a stark contrast to his previous aggressive style. The change was surprisingly seamless. Junghak, ever the fearless jet, would dash into battle, securing frags with breathtaking precision. Tony, now the team's anchor, would watch his back, a constant source of healing and support. Their synergy was undeniable. Victories came easier, their communication a fluid dance of call-outs and strategies. It wasn't just about winning anymore, it was about having each other's backs, in-game and out. "You know," Junghak said one evening after a particularly triumphant match, "we sound like a right pair of idiots when we're hyped up." Tony chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Speak for yourself. I'm the picture of cool-headed composure," Junghak snorted. "Right, mister, don't worry, I'll heal you right before I whiff every shot." They laughed, the sound filling the silence of their rooms, miles apart yet somehow closer than ever. "Hey," Tony began, a sudden thought striking him. "We should meet up sometime, you know, in real life." A beat of silence. Then Junghak's voice, a touch softer than usual. Yeah, I'd like that." The cafe was bustling, the air thick with the aroma of coffee and chatter. Tony nervously adjusted his glasses, searching for a familiar face, and then he saw him. Junghak stood by the window, bathed in the warm afternoon sunlight. He looked even better in person, his smile brighter, his eyes holding a mischievous glint. "Hey, you found me!" Junghak grinned, pulling Tony into a quick hug. Tony was surprised by the gesture, his heart skipping a beat at the unexpected touch. As they settled into a table, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about everything and nothing, their laughter mingling with the cafe's ambient hum. They spent the rest of the day exploring the city, their initial nervousness fading with each shared joke and stolen glance. "Look, it's that awful statue we always joke about," Tony exclaimed, pointing to a particularly unfortunate piece of public art they'd often mocked in their online conversations. Junghak laughed, slinging an arm around Tony's shoulder in a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. "Come on, let's get a picture with it for posterity." As they posed, Tony felt a warmth blossom in his chest. This easy camaraderie, the comfortable silences interspersed with laughter, it felt different, more than just friendship. Later, as the sun began to set, they found themselves in a quiet park, seated on a bench beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak tree. "I never told you this," Junghak confessed, his voice hushed, "but I was so nervous about meeting you today." Tony raised an eyebrow, surprised. "You? Nervous? Mr. Valorant prodigy?" Junghak chuckled. "Shut up, I was worried we wouldn't click in real life, you know? That our online banter wouldn't translate." "But it did," Tony said softly, his gaze meeting Junghak's. "It did more than I could have imagined." Their fingers brushed against each other on the bench, sending a jolt of electricity through Tony's arm. He didn't pull away. The sky deepened into a velvety indigo stars beginning to pepper the expanse above. Neither of them moved, the silence no longer comfortable, but charged with unspoken emotions. "Junghak," Tony started, his voice barely a whisper. Junghak turned to face him, his eyes questioning, filled with an emotion Tony couldn't quite decipher. Tony took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he was about to take a leap of faith, but something about this moment, about Junghak's presence beside him, gave him the courage to speak. He began, then stopped, unsure how to articulate the whirlwind of feelings swirling within him. Junghak reached out, his hand finding Tony's and gently intertwining their fingers. The warmth of his touch spread through Tony, chasing away his hesitation. "Tony," Junghak said, his voice barely audible, I think I'm falling for you." The words hung in the air between them, fragile yet heavy with unspoken longing. Tony's breath hitched. "Junghak," he breathed, his gaze locking with Junghak's. I feel it too." And in that quiet confession, under the watchful gaze of a million stars, their friendship transformed into something deeper, something precious and real. The next few months were a whirlwind of shared dinners, stolen kisses, and whispered secrets. Their Valorant sessions continued, of course, but now they were filled with a newfound sweetness, their in-game banter punctuated by private jokes and shared smiles. One evening, after a particularly intense match, which they won, thanks to Tony's clutch heals, Junghak turned to Tony, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Hey, Tony," he began, his voice taking on a dramatic tone. "Remember when I said I was worried about our online connection not translating to real life?" Tony chuckled, a sense of anticipation building in his chest. "How could I forget? You were practically sweating bullets." Junghak laughed, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Well," he continued, opening the box to reveal a simple silver ring, "I think it's safe to say we don't have to worry about that anymore."